Hey folks, Jimmy here, aka Palette of the Dead. Welcome back to the channel and welcome to the latest issue of Warhammer Age of Sigmar Stormbringer magazine. Now, as per usual with all these videos, if you like them, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and of course, drop me a comment down below. Love hearing back from you guys. It goes a massive way to helping out the channel too. Now, this video we're on issue 45. It is slightly delayed by a couple of days because it just hadn't turned up on time due to Christmas and everything kind of throwing a spanner in the works as per usual. But this week's issue 45, comes with the Loon Smasher Fanatics for the Gloomspite Gits. Now, these guys are pretty cool. You get 6 minis. So you have the little curled up fella who's not feeling too peaky, just down here, currently curled up and vomiting from spinning around too much. And then all the other guys that spin around, fling these big heavy maces and mauls around, flinging themselves. Sometimes obviously the rope frays and breaks and just sends it as like a bit of a projectile into the enemy ranks. But they're really cool. I quite like them because they're a fun little quirky unit, and I don't know, the Gloomspite Gits wouldn't be as kind of fun and unique without these weird little kind of units. I think they work very nicely, they work very well, and they look a bit more fun, kind of exactly like Squigs do and such like. So this adds to a bit more of that fun. So really good stuff there. I'm looking forward to getting going with these guys as well, because it should be really good fun to paint up. And yeah, as for Grots, it's fairly easy colour scheme, black and green and a few other colours, so it shouldn't take too long. But otherwise, really good stuff. Going into this week's issue though, first off, we are greeted by more information about the battles in the Ether War. So, after the slaying of the Lode Griffin, the skies above the Griffin's eyrie were overrun by the forces of Tzeentch. During the Ether War, the Kharadron overlords explored these skies, finding more than they bargained for. So at the heart of the Griffin's Eye is the Azure Crown, which was uninhabitable to the Kharadron overlords for many centuries. The followers of Tzeentch who came to live in the area thought of it as a paradise. Protected from the Kharadron by the magical atmosphere, they were free to scheme and expand. However, as Kharadron civilization grew, the nearby skyport of Badaknar developed new technologies that allowed them to venture into Azure Crown. So, the Ether War, if you're into it and you kind of like these things, was another one of the battle boxes, kind of exactly like Carrion Empire was and such like, and it was featured for 2 factions, the Disciples of Tzeentch and the Kharadron Overlords, and you had a couple of unique minis that you can only get with that box to begin with anyway. But yeah, really good stuff. Pretty cool, a nice little bit of lore and info for it as well, and how the battle plays out, because they do like to do these battle boxes and they work quite nicely. So pretty good stuff there. Then we move on, we have another story. So the Gathering. So a good loon boss is always on the lookout for a new enemy for their army to fight. A really good loon boss remembers that squished grots make for terrible army. So it's always a careful balancing act to make sure the horde has enough fighting to keep them entertained, but not so much that they can't overwhelm the enemies with superior numbers. So, because, loon bosses do like to do a bit more of superior numbers. Same with Skaven. Both of them are fairly small, so obviously they don't want to fight anything too big. But if there's more than enough of them, they become a bit more fightier and like to attack a bit more, and they have higher morale and are less likely to break and run. So really cool though. You get a nice little bit of artwork as well at the bottom, some nice photos. So all the way down across, including the new Fire Slayer that's been released not too long ago. So yeah, really cool stuff. It's nice to see. It's another new little story, so quite good fun. So if you like your Warhammer fiction, definitely worth a read. And then we move on, we have our Loon Smasher Fanatics page. So Loon Smasher Fanatics are hurricanes of green flesh and iron. Loon Smashers hide amongst other Gloomspite gits and drink themselves loopy on fungal brews. When enemies come near, the fanatics are released into the fray to inflict unexpected and lethal violence on the unfortunate foes. So, as you can imagine, being Loon Smasher fanatics, they are fanatical, they are bonkers, and yeah, they like to smash stuff. So, obviously they drink a lot of this fungal brew, which kind of, yeah, works a bit like a lot of strong alcohol or drugs to stir them up into a bit of a frenzy, and then when enemies are near enough, they can just utilise their weapons, their nice heavy cudgels and mauls and stuff like that they can use, and swing them around, fling themselves around, and yeah, smash some stuff up. So bit of something different and bit of fun as well at the same time. Obviously, you get to your usual unit traits, your unit name as well, and you can give them their great deeds as per the usual with them type of pages. Then we move on, we have our build guide. There are a few small parts on these kits, so by all means make sure you're trimming it properly. You will need to dry fit because some parts do have these little kind of like stubs where the injection molding is done, so you want to make sure you're getting rid of them first, and so yeah, have a bit of fun with it, but take your time and, you know, don't rush into it. There are a couple of little scenery base bits, so 42, 43, 44 and 45 are to just randomise on any base, so it's entirely up to you how you want to go about utilising them. Obviously you can add others to it later on if you have the parts, so why not? But otherwise, fairly straightforward. Obviously the easiest one is going to be the Sick Grot, that doesn't take part in any battles, but is, you know, a fun little model and a little addition to the kit, so why not? Then we move on, our paint guide. In all honesty, the paint guide's pretty decent for these. It's fairly straightforward. Even if you're not painting up following the guide, this is very much a very similar way that you probably would be doing it anyway if you're going for black robed grots. So yeah, I can't criticise the paint guide for this, because yeah, it's exactly how it probably would be. For the puddle of vomit, Sick Grot's face, you're using Bala Brown and Griffhound Orange. In all honesty, yeah, it will work. It will give you a bit of a disgusting colour. If you want to mute it down a little bit, just go back over with Bala Brown as a bit of a dry brush maybe over the top of it. Just obviously be a bit neat with it to make sure you're not getting it over the rest of the mini, but you know, you can neaten it down that way if you wanted to. But otherwise, yeah, fairly straightforward, fairly easy. It's genuinely a decent paint scheme, so you can't really go wrong with it, so why not have a bit of fun with it and enjoy yourself painting up these 6 minis. And then we move on, we go through some tactics. So the Lord Aquila's tactics, so obviously they have a really good manoeuvrability, versatility, but they are a priority target, so they do become a bit more of a under the kind of gun. And also your tactics for the Knight Judicator as well, so they are obviously very ranged attacks, Griffhounds, but they are fragile, so they have their positives and they have their negative. Then we move on, we have a battle plan. So battle plan, fairly straightforward. Pick your army, have a bit of fun with it, whether you're using Praetors, Vigilors, Griffhounds, Vindicators, or if you're on the Forces of Destruction, your Slogoth, Killbow, Bolt Boys, or even Slitters. Entirely up to you, but you can get a really cool kit out of kind of battles out of these guys, so it will be really good fun and enjoyable, which is exactly what you want from your games. And then lastly, we have the Armies of Shaiish. So on Armies of Shaiish page, obviously the Ossiarch Bone Reapers mentioned here, they are the skeletal force of Shaiish, of Nagash's legions. They're the Mortisans, the Mortek Guard and such like, and they obey Nagash with unyielding results, and they're pretty fun as well. In all honesty, they look pretty cool. You've got some really cool minis, so whether it's good old the Mortek Guard, which do look quite cool, the good old other bits and pieces like the Mortek Guard or anything like that, you can have a bit of fun with them. So really good stuff. You got your Flesh Eater Courts. Obviously there are new Flesh Eater Courts on the way as well, so there are some really, really good ones because they're a bit more enjoyable and yeah, a bit nutty, cannibalistic, ghoulish creatures who yeah, don't really utilize any weapons. They kind of run in, pull, rip, tear, bash things in with kind of improvised weapons made out of bone, have bones protruding through them. They're just nuts and weird, but kind of fun at the same time. The Anvils of a Heldenhammer are a Stormcast Eternals army clad in onyx armour, but they are forged from the long dead souls taken from Shyish. So they are actually a Shyishan army, so they reside generally in the realm of death and go through there. And then on the other end of it, you do have the Unmade, who are a cannibalistic cult of chaos worshippers in the realm of Shyish. You have the Nighthaunt as well, who obviously we had in Mortal Realms magazine. And yeah, you don't really have good old Soulblight Gravelords mentioned here, in all honesty, which is seems a bit weird. There are some important places though in Shyish. So Lethis is one of the sprawling cities of Sigmar within the realm of death itself. So if you have the new Cities of Sigmar army, you can do an army based on the colour scheme for Lethis. You have Shadespire, which is one of the underworlds. It's cursed by Nagash, one of the best good old Warhammer Age of Sigmar novels I think I've ever read. Really, really enjoyable, so if you get a chance to read it, go for it. Gothizar, which is a fortress of the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, and they're pretty damn cool. And there is also the Shyish Nadir, which is a vortex of death magic inside the middle of Shyish. So instead of most of them where it's on the outside, there is the Nadir slowly drawing all the underworlds of Shyish into its depths, and could potentially do a lot more damage overall. But otherwise, that's really, really cool. And Shyish is one of the more interesting realms, in my opinion. I think it's got some of the coolest lore behind it, no matter what novel you read in. Regarding good old Shyish, there's some really good stuff. But yeah, otherwise, next week we get our Sylvaneth Branch Witch. A really cool mini, I think. I think it's one of the more interesting Sylvaneth minis, and a really good one. We get information about Nighthaunt, and we also get Science and Sorcery. The week after issue 47 is another bit of terrain. So we get a Nexus Siphon, which is a pretty cool bit for your Cities of Sigmar. Yeah, quite an interesting kit, so quite good fun. We get information about the Disciples of Tzeentch and the battlefields of Shamon as well. But otherwise, that is it from me. Thank you very, very much for watching, and I will see you sometime soon. Bye bye now.